everybody. I am Gina B, sadly here without Mama D, but we do have our guest waiting for us, Forrest Rivers, and I will, as always, play our little bio video for him. Explains a little bit about him, what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is COVID, how to rise above, more on the spiritual end of it, not the political end of it. However, I'm sure that will sneak its way in there. But let me play a little video of Forrest, and then he will be with us, and then we'll start right away.
Good evening, I'm Gina B, here with Mama D every Thursday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here in the Fox Den. Tonight we have Forrest Rivers joining us. Now, understandably, COVID-19 has been a harbinger of mass chaos and unspeakable tragedy for many people. However, Forrest Rivers, an author and an inspirational speaker, maintains in his newly released and highly uplifting book, COVID-19 and Humanity's Spiritual Awakening, that if we are able to still our minds and fully be with the immensity of this moment, we can start to see a different narrative emerging, one of hope, personal empowerment, and spiritual awakening. Forrest's uplifting message is one that is desperately needed in these times of great suffering and division. We welcome Forrest Rivers to the Fox Den to discuss his urgent message for you and all humanity.
And here he is. Welcome, Forrest.
Hey, welcome, Gina. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Oh, hey, and here is my co-host who cannot get on here. This is why she can't. She has an internet problem. For the moment, I'm trolling the chat room. Damn crappy internet. I will be back next week, or heads will roll. And believe me, she means it. So hopefully she will be back. So, as long as she's not up here with us in person, she's at least in the chat room with you guys down there. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Ronnie. Hi, Ashley. Hey, guys, really share the show, okay? Because it's probably going to be some pretty good information to have for some people. Because for the last couple of years now, we've been living under this dome of COVID. And first of all, let's start out with, you also have another book too that we're going to talk about later on, and how that's like really relevant to this too. But the COVID-19 book and that you wrote, why did you choose to write this?
Yeah, so back in 2020, when we all went on lockdown, I could sense immediately that there was a lot of fear, understandably, that people had, and a lot of anxiety, and a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of division, and a lot of chaos during that time. It was, if you remember, I think everybody can relate to those feelings that were they're still there now, of course, but they were even more prevalent then. And so when I sat down and I was trying to process my own feelings about everything. So partly I started writing this book as a form of like self-therapy to make sense of what was happening in this very unprecedented and fearful moment. And then I realized as I talked to other people that they were going through very much the same thing. So I wanted to write a book and say, let's acknowledge, first of all, the suffering we've all been going through. And then secondly, let's look at the uplifting side of this entire ordeal and see how we can spiritually grow. So I guess I wrote the book part out of the attempt to try to heal people and heal myself, really. And then also to uplift people, to give people an inspiring message during a dark night.
Yeah, true. Now, I hope you don't mind if I read a little piece of what you wrote in here. This is like on page 34. Excuse my voice. This is due to COVID that I got in May. But you wrote, and these are some of the questions that we were all thinking at the beginning of this, because I this is the first and foremost thing that I thought of when this first came out, was the severity of the crisis being manufactured by corporate news outlets seeking to turn record profits. Okay, first and foremost, I was saying, who's getting rich off of this,
Yeah,
right?
that was my first thought. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the second one, because then we start thinking, oh geez, why would she make this personality at that point? We always have that, don't worry about it. We're very animal friendly here in the Foxtown. So you guys, so the second thing here too was, have I already contracted the virus? Will my elderly parents be getting sick?
Okay.
So all of these questions, they're so perfect, right? I was just reading these questions. You wrote them, you know them, right? But I'm telling the people, okay? Our world leaders, do they protect us from the pandemic? Right? All of these are such valid, poignant questions, at the beginning of this thing that we are all thinking of. So a lot of these things in this book, now I'm holding up pages because I again have a PDF. I usually hold up the book, but I don't have the book in hand. So I would be showing you pages, but now I'm just going to be showing you know, things like this. Excuse me. Oh, his eyes look like they were glowing. Yes, from the screens of the reflection of the light on the computer. Yeah. Well, no, he's just got that glowing personality. He's spiritually uplifted. He's done a lot to get himself there too. You know what? Why don't why don't we kind of do this a little bit? All right. Um, in your bio, in your media kit, you talked about when you were in Hawaii and things that you have overcome, a problem with alcoholism, which I can understand, a problem with alcohol. That's a hard thing to overcome, but you did. And then that turned you, is that the thing that turned you more onto spiritualism and getting you on that path?
Absolutely. I think I took a trip to Maui when I was 30 years old. And prior to that, I had had about 12 years of a serious alcohol abuse that started as just sort of social drinking that kind of spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
And, uh, and when I went to Hawaii, I had this blessed opportunity. It The nature, the sheer beauty, the transcendent glory of what is nature in Hawaii just spoke to my soul, and I returned and didn't have an urge to abuse alcohol anymore. And it was gradual; it didn't disappear overnight, but I absolutely believe that for me at least, I had to go through that in order to um, turn to the spiritual path. And I think a lot of people can relate that suffering brings them to the path. And I don't view my story as any more or less important than anybody else's story. I think we all have our own suffering that we overcome. Every one of us do. We have something.
Right.
And
If everything was glorious, then what would we be? This is what we do. That's what we do. We'd be sitting there in total contentment, but it's not. And then when things start doing a nosedive for us, that's when we start to pull ourselves up. I think that's when we're at our best.
and it absolutely, and it breeds, most importantly, gratitude. So when you suffer, or when you go through a dark night of the soul and you come out of that, you have gratitude to be alive every day. And I can
Yeah.
honestly say I feel that now. I feel gratitude every day I wake up, and I'm like, I'm alive. I'm a conscious being, and look at this beautiful earth we're a part of. And I think it's easy to take things for granted.
Yeah.
And and I guess tying it to the topic of today, COVID has been one heck of a event to breed gratitude, and gratitude to survive it, gratitude to be alive, gratitude to have a job, gratitude to have a roof over our head. It's been a very difficult time for
Definitely.
many
Well, now
people.
for people like me, I was self-employed. If I didn't work, I didn't make money, and I did physical labor, so I was out
Hmm.
physically working. Now I haven't worked since I moved to Pennsylvania. When this all hit, I wasn't actually out there doing my job that I had done all my life. However, if I was, this definitely would have highly impacted me. I would have had to figure out something quickly, which I would have because I always have. You know, I've been on that roller coaster of life, and the only one that's ever pulled me out really was me. So I've always done
Absolutely.
that. But again, all things out of necessity. So when you need to do it, you do it. So I don't know what I would have done. It would have been something, maybe something art related or whatever. I would have done something like that, maybe. But
Yeah.
you know, it's something. But people like me that were self-employed, they did find a lot of great outlets. Mama D is one of them. She started doing the paint pouring.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful work. So I'm more of a detailed thing. My sister just made me that painting, which is right there. She did that
Well,
for me, and then
oh, that's
she's like,
that's
she
that's
doesn't. She
beautiful. I
doesn't
see
like it, and
that.
I absolutely love it. She's like, I changed it so many times. I'm like, no, it's beautiful. It's perfect. You made it. It's beautiful.
It's
Absolutely
the it's
perfect.
the it's the perfect backdrop. I love it.
I
So
know, and I was going to hang it on my wall, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put it over there, and I do, and I love it. But I'm more of a fine artist, and Mama D, and she does this beautiful, flowy, you know, it's more her because she's more the metaphysical. I'm the more anal of the pair, which is very true, and it's really funny. But she's doing well with that, and I don't know if it hadn't been for her accident at work and or COVID that she would have really gotten into it. I don't know, maybe, but I don't know. So so are we moving?
Madam, move for 1 second. I am so sorry. Okay,
Okay,
we're
it's
good.
okay. I'm teasing you. I really am. Let's see. I would pay. I would have to have to pay to be on the show with her. No, no, no. Mama D, and I, we go way back. We were really good friends prior to her coming on here being my co-host. Anyway, I think we've only done that out of the last year. I think she's only missed two shows, maybe.
That's
And
pretty good.
yeah,
That's pretty good
I know.
odds. So,
I know, and we do show every week, and sometimes more than one. So okay, her internet can go out now, but that's it. You're back next week. Enough said. The heads will roll. The fox will come up to Canada. But anyway, I getting back to you. So this is what happens. I start looking at the shiny balls all over the place, and there we go. But the thing was due to COVID put people in different situations where they have to more turn inward than outward.
this has been a wonderful time for introspection. It's been a wonderful time to develop your creative expressive outlets. You were mentioning some of that, and I have a friend who started his own YouTube channel. I had another friend who took up woodworking. One person who got involved in volunteering. Another person who uh, decided to try off the grid living. I know,
Mhm.
and just very interesting. This has been a very interesting time to turn inwards, as you said, and to really develop your being and to follow your life's passions. And that's been an interesting thing that's come out of this. I think that is an
Mhm.
absolutely uplifting aspect that we can point to. amid all the very real suffering.
Totally. Totally. Um, mm, okay. Well, when you first wrote this book, now you did write this book more towards the beginning of this, but now what would be the relevance of them getting the book now?
Oh
Too,
man.
like as opposed to back then at the beginning.
So the book is actually undergoing a rewrite. I have my version here, and I'm doing a rewrite to sort of bring us to where we are now. And it sounds rather ambitious, but really it's more about the how are we processing this
Mm.
internally here, and what have been people's experiences, and how has these experiences added depth to their lives. And that's really what I'm focusing on in this rewrite. So there'll be like new chapters that build on this book. It's funny, when I wrote the book, Gina, it was almost like initial reactions. It was my spirit trying to make sense.
Yeah.
It was my spirit trying to make sense of this very dramatic event, of this very dramatic moment happening then. But a lot has happened, right, even in the last year.
This
And
year, it doesn't seem like the year before it was like slow and painful as hell. This
oh
year
my gosh,
seems to have just flown right by.
this year's flown right by, but it's been in some ways just as revealing and maybe even more dramatic in some ways for the transformative aspects of our being, right? What do I mean by that is 2020, like you said, Gina, it was slow, painful, hard. It kind of hit us over the head. We were almost in shock, many of us, for that first year.
We definitely
Then on
were.
top of that, compound that with all of the chaotic exterior events that were happening, like the George Floyd incident. Gosh, and
Well, that stemmed a whole ball of wax all
oh
on its own.
gosh,
That started a
oh,
whole
and
movement,
it
you know.
started an entire movement, and then you had BLM, and you had the collapse of the economy and the lockdowns, and all this. Not only are we existentially dealing internally with death and dying, right, and we're dealing with our fear of going without, and we're dealing with sickness, and we're dealing with suffering. Then on the exterior, we have all these kind of explosive political events, and an election, and very all of this
I
stuff.
know. It was a
And
nightmare in every single
oh,
way
it
that it
was
could be coming in.
you couldn't, Gina, you couldn't write a like you couldn't write a better uh,
Horror movie?
horror movie. Yeah, it was like a dystopia. The whole year felt like a dystopia.
Right.
And I think this year, in some ways though, has been just as dramatic though, in a different way, because while last year hit us over the head, this year it's about internalizing the what we've been through this last year. It's almost like we're all have PTSD now, and we're trying to figure out. And by the way, that PTSD, or more accurately, the shakeup of our souls, has expressed itself in uh, in a multitude of manners. Some people, the way that they've dealt with the last year and a half is just to pretend like it's not happening. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
other
Yeah.
other
Total
people,
denial, because that's the
denial
easy. Yeah.
denial's the great. Others is to say, other people have dealt with it by saying, I'm just going to completely withdraw from everything. And there's been that too. There's been terrible incidents of increased uh, suicides. You've
Yep.
seen uh, terrible mental health problems we have in this country. Very real depression people are
Yep.
facing due to the alienation and the lockdowns. So we're seeing all of this coming to roost this year, where we're having to internalize all we've been through. And so I think, to get really back to your question, the for people reading this book, I think it's not over yet. It just speaks to a different stage of how we're processing this. And I think this book will be interesting because I think you'll relate to the initial thoughts and reflections that are in this book from 2020. And it's ongoing.
I certainly did, I mean, and it's not a huge, giant book, people. It's really not. It's not huge. It's only like
It's meant to
136
be.
pages. Okay. Let me show you both his books. Okay. Right here. All right. So we have the COVID-19 book right there. This is the blue one, the hippie revival and collective writing. Right? Hippie revival. Now you're talking my language. I love the hippie era. And even in this book, you've brought up stuff about hippies and hiking on the Appalachian Trail. I used to live right on the Appalachian Trail in Oxford, Massachusetts. My street was right on the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, that's beautiful.
A lot of hikers go through there. So
yeah, where I live right now is 10 minutes from the Appalachian Trail up in the Smoky Mountains. So
beautiful.
It's a very influential place, and I know exactly where you were too, and that's a beautiful spot. So
yeah. We got a lot of snow there because it was up on a mountain, but it was
a lot of snow.
It was good. Now I live in Pennsylvania. Not not near the Appalachian Trail, but still, I mean, if I could go hiking, I would. However, all right, so here we go. I got COVID, all right, and people, this is the thing that irritates me most about this. When people deny that this is a real issue, and because I'm going to go on and on and on here, all right, but I got COVID even staying home. I mean, my boyfriend, he was an essential worker, and he, even taking all the steps, to try and do things correctly, cleaning, masks, this, that, he still brought it home. He still got it. He still brought it home. And it happened to be right around the time we were getting our vaccines too. So I don't know if that made it worse or what, but it really killed my lungs. So now I have COPD, I have emphysema, which would have come out like in my 90s if I had not have gotten COVID. So these are the serious issues, health issues that we have to deal with as a society. Not only just worrying about our elderly people, but like something like me, this underlying thing that was here, I had no real symptoms of it. I mean, I used to use an inhaler for seasonal allergies here and there, but now I can't make it through the day without, steroid inhalers and rescue inhalers and nebulizers and a steroid to open the lungs this way, steroid to open the lungs that way. And on top of that, I changed insurance companies, and now I have to take a giant step backwards on my treatment because I was taking Trilogy that worked. And now I can't take that because I guess that's the Cadillac, and then the money comes in, right? So there's big pharma got to make their money, but the insurance companies don't want to pay it. So here I am. I got to take generic crap, make sure that fails, which it is. But who's suffering? Me. I'm the one who can't breathe.
Well, I mean, your story is just hitting on the theme. Everything you've just said, Gina. And by the way, my heart goes out to you, and I hope your recovery continues. And I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah. I mean, it's permanent damage. It's not like it's going to get better. That's the thing. It's just what works. And then Trilogy was working. Now I just have to fail these things on the new insurance company's list, even though I've done other things and failed to find the one that works. Doesn't matter.
I think everything you're saying, Gina, speaks to an underlying problem that we currently have in the society, which is selfishness. Selfishness is the issue in this country. Get beyond the politics, get beyond the politics, get beyond all of that. If we really break it down, I mean, Gina, everything you just said with the health insurance companies, it's all about the money. It should be about people. It should be about people, and their health, and then, the fact that
we're numbers. We're not people. We're numbers.
And then the fact that COVID's gotten to this point because we don't see each other as brothers and sisters. And there seems to be a lack of regard for caring for one another in this whole thing,
Right.
and I think, if anything, COVID has revealed the fact that when you pursue a society that's predicated on selfishness and you only view yourself as important, we see the consequences of that. And I truly believe this. I think this has exposed the illusion of separateness and
Right.
how
Figure
much
out this
trouble,
question.
yeah, how much trouble acting as if we're separate gets us into.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. I'm just trying to figure out Colette's question here. I have a question. Do you think they are taking the COVID too far? Oh, too as in too far. The government taking it too far. Um, well, no, I really don't. COVID has hit different levels for different people. For me, COVID gave me a sinus cold. Yes, yeah. I mean, it's like how healthy are you to begin with when you get COVID? You know, it hit me and Bob really hard. I mean, it did this damage to my lungs. My parents got it, which they're in their 80s, and I was really scared for them, and they had to go into the hospital. However, when I got it, maybe I should have gone to the hospital. Maybe it wouldn't have gotten this far. Maybe it would have. I don't know. I don't know. But I didn't have insurance at the time, so I didn't go to the hospital. So what are you going to do? This is what it is. But everyone has a same but different story, you know, and it's hit everybody. And I know a lot of people, a lot of deaths, and it doesn't matter your age. A man that Bob works with, he was only 42 with 3 children, passed away. He died on a Friday. He was due to get a double lung transplant on Monday, and he died on Friday. you know and when people sit there and say, oh, COVID's not real, oh, this is a political thing, oh, the government is doing this and doing that, and the government's forcing us to do this. The government wants you to be healthy. you know the world wants you to be healthy. And the same thing happened when the kids got polio, right? What happened? All those kids were getting so severely afflicted. They were all in iron lungs, right? What was the world doing? Scrambling for a vaccine. What did they do here? We scrambled for a vaccine. It's not just the United States, too, right? This is the thing that kills me. United States gets so that they think this is all about them and their government. Hello, it's global. Global. Do you understand that? The whole world. It's not just here. It's not just politics here. It's not politics as usual for the United States. This is every single county, country, continent, right?
Well,
The world.
and that's an important point, is that we've all been through we've all been through a lot, and we're more united than we think. There's not, in a lot of ways, I think one of the most profound thing that's come out of COVID, and I talk about it in the book, is that it's made us more aware of our commonality, our inherent oneness, our
Right.
unity as humans. And I think we get so easily divided by nationality and ethnicity and politics and religion, and all of these things, are all these isms. They're not real in the spirit realm. In the spirit realm, we're one consciousness. We are one mind, one soul. And what COVID has dramatically revealed is how connected we really are. And it's sad that it's taken such a tragedy to bring us to this point, to be aware of our interconnectedness. But no matter where you were, in early on, we saw what was happening in Italy, where there was the rationing of healthcare and people dying, literally, like hospitals having to choose who lives and who dies. How horrific was that? And we had our whole waves here in the United States. We had waves in Brazil. We had waves in India. We had entire variants emerge in respective countries that circled the world. COVID's really revealed beyond anything how interconnected we really are.
Right.
And
I
it
remember
is.
saying, yeah, I remember saying like 5, 6 years ago when I first when I first started doing the radio show with Chris, we used to talk about the soul family all the time, you know, and that the soul family was growing. And we kept, every time we'd have a certain
So fun.
member
I
on
love
our
that.
show, a certain, you know what I mean? It's like we would draw that person, and that person was definitely part of the soul family. You are definitely part of that soul family. It's what connects us all, right?
It's all what
And this
connects
has
us.
been building and building and building for years. And we always said, we don't know why this soul family is going to be so important and why it is so important to keep all this connections and these the camaraderie open and alive, right? Because why? Something is going to happen. Well, look what happened. This is what happened, right?
Yeah, there's a really beautiful quote by one of the most influential spiritual teachers in my life, Ram Dass, who passed away in the end of 2019. Absolutely think he's one of the most authentic and beautiful teachers America's ever had. And Ram Dass said something along the lines, he said, we're all just walking each other home, right? And that was his quote. We're all just walking each other home. We're really all one consciousness. We're really all one interconnected web. And I think what COVID has done in many respects is made us more aware of that connection point. And hopefully, when we look back on this period, while it may appear a bit hopeless right now with all the division, hopefully many years down when we look at this, we say that was a really important juncture in the evolution of humanity's uh, uh, spiritual consciousness. And I really believe that. I think much like, oh gosh, Vietnam galvanized people in the 60s, and psychedelics turned people's awareness more inward, despite some of its
Yeah.
more,
So here we go.
you
Yeah,
know,
here's the hippies. The hippies coming in.
into that,
But the hippies,
yeah. And
they had a good grip on
I,
you know, make peace not war. Timothy
yeah, yeah.
Leary. You know,
And Timothy, yeah, turn
so,
on, tune in, drop out, and so you have all of this happening, people exploring Eastern religions, Native American religions,
right.
people like Ram Dass who were going off to India, who found his guru. You know, you had all this happening, in the 60s and 70s. And actually, I think the period that we're going through right now is very, very remarkably similar to what was happening in the 60s and 70s,
Kind
except
of is.
this is like it's like on steroids, though. I mean, this is like the 60s and 70s on steroids in terms of how dramatic the events are. You know why? Because of technology, right? Technology has just
Yeah.
exploded
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, because
It's acted.
before you'd have to see it on television, all the riots and the things and the whatnots and the media.
It's
And now
instant.
it's just
Everything's instantaneous. It's
yeah.
there, and it's instantaneous. And personally and truly believe that this is a moment of great potential for uh, higher consciousness. I really, really believe that. And I think that there's so many factors at play. There's the crazy social things that are happening there, the political events, but even more important than all that, the are having to face down the specter of death. It
Mm-hmm,
is This has been in our face for a year and a half now.
mm-hmm,
And not a coincidence that in just about every spiritual faith, right, Gina, there's a huge emphasis on working with death, working with one's fear of death, one's own mortality. And out of that comes the ability to live each day with more gratitude, with more awareness, with more presentness in the moment. So out of suffering comes that that awakening. And I really think that this era has it all right now. And we have
no
uh,
doubt.
who would have thought that we would be dealing with a once in a century pandemic, popping out of the blue, that was going to be the thing, that was going to be our signpost on the path of consciousness evolution. And I think this period has it all. We and I believe it was destined to happen this way. I really, something within me says that this was our karmic predicament that we all had to work through.
Yeah, but and also on the other hand, it brings out all the crazies and the conspiracy
Mhm.
theories and the this and the that, and it's like, oh well, someone's doing this on purpose just because we have too many people on the planet, and it's like,
It's
really?
but it's but Gina, it's also, and while while it's ridiculous, and while it can be maddening to listen to some of the more fringe thoughts about this, it's also all part of our coming to consciousness, of our coming to awareness. It's that there's a great, like it's like the I'm part of the crazy, because I'm part of the whole. I'm part of the crazy. I'm part of the whole. I'm part of uh, you know, the expression. We're just part of all of it. I mean, the craziness. If we notice the craziness, we're probably also acknowledging to some extent that craziness in us too.
Yeah.
And
But again,
yeah,
it's a lesson too. It's a life lesson. It's like, how do you handle pressure, right? For the
exactly.
most important part for people like us and what we do in the metaphysical community and whatnot, first and foremost, we will rely on meditation, you know, because what does that do? That just grounds you. So even if you don't know how to meditate, ground, at least just breathe, just stop the insanity and breathe. Journaling and journaling a gratitude list, huge. But meditation, and you write a lot in the book about meditation too. So I know you agree with that. You can talk more
I,
about that.
I can't emphasize how important meditation practice is to cultivate in your lives. And I think this period that we've all been going through has been a very important time to take up meditation and prayer, which I've always thought actually fold upon each other in the end. So I think meditation is crucial for stilling our minds, for grounding ourselves, for turning within. And if we can turn within and become more peaceful beings and more calm and still beings, we can share that peace with the world. And that's how I believe real change is made. Change is made starting with the practice of meditation, the cultivating of inner awareness, and then you share that light and project it outwards. And
Absolutely.
that's how I think change is made.
Absolutely. So Nadine from Malibu, welcome. She says, "Hi, Gina and Forrest. Hello. It's a shift of the ages. It's the golden ages. How do we shift into 5D consciousness?" That's a really good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely agree that we're moving out of a dark age. The Hindus would call it the Kali Yuga. Yuga is like basically a cycle of light and dark ages, and I do believe that we're emerging out of a dark age into a golden age indisputably. I think that's happening. And you know how we know that? We know that intuitively. We can feel that in prayer. We can feel that in meditation. We can feel that when we walk into nature. And we
Right.
can, if we tune in, we can feel that that's happening. It's not,
Right.
we can't, it's hard to quantify that with our minds, but it's something that we can feel and hear.
And
So
you
with
absolutely can. You absolutely can if you can just
you can
take that
feel it.
time, and it doesn't
Something
take all that much time. Build yourself up
something
to
is
20 minutes a day, but it'd be great.
even 10 minutes a day of
Right.
meditation is crucial.
Yeah.
But
You got to start with 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, because your mind starts to wander, but it does, it does that.
and mantra is really great for stilling the mind. That's something I've worked a lot with, is various mantras. It stills your mind, helps you become one pointed, and then eventually the repetition of the mantra starts to flow from your mind into your heart, and you're not thinking about anything, you're feeling the words of that mantra.
Because
So that's
your perception is your reality.
it's
Your
your
intent
reality.
turns into that, right? So that is exactly what happens.
You become the mantra, right?
Yep.
But how do we get to the 5D consciousness? Okay, so I mean, from where I'm standing, I think cultivating the qualities that allow us to evolve in our awareness. So how do we get there? Well, each of us as individuals need to engage in those soulfully rich activities that encourage our spiritual evolution. So meditation, a daily prayer practice. I can't emphasize enough communing with nature, getting out into the natural world. For me, it's been transformative. I think it's starting to grow. I think it's more people are becoming aware of how crucial uh, communing with the natural world is to expanding our consciousness. Look at wilderness therapy programs are emerging. People are starting to realize how more and more people are wanting to garden and to grow their own food. Uh, People are realizing, going back again to the hippies, the people are realizing now there's new research coming out about the wonders of plant medicine, psilocybin mushrooms, peyote, ayahuasca, right? All of those beautiful healing medicines. Uh, I think I think these are things that we can do. Another thing that we can do to shift our consciousness beyond meditation, prayer, nature is engaging in service, in the spirit of service. Find a way that you can volunteer, but don't do so thinking that you're the helper, right? And you're not helping anybody. You're
Yeah,
serving
and you
because
just
that's what you
act.
do.
You
Yeah,
just act out of
you just
instinct.
are. Yeah,
Yeah.
out of instinct. That's just we act because we're all interconnected with each other. Um,
And we've been conditioned our whole lives to be like, oh no, don't talk to that. That's a stranger danger, right? We've been
Straight,
conditioned. We've been conditioned this since childhood. Yeah, you know,
absolutely.
and even our governments do that. Oh, Russia, big bad. Oh, China to take over the world. Oh, all these things. Why? Why do we feel this way? Because we've been conditioned to feel this way.
Yeah, and to build off that, another thing that we're going to have to do to expand our consciousness and enter that 5D consciousness state is we need to unplug ourselves as much as we possibly can from all of the exterior minutia. That all it does is fills our minds with distraction. That means tune out. You don't need to be glued to the news, right? That's not going to move us
It's so
forward,
depressing.
right? It's so depressing. You know, Deplugging from the system as much as possible. But that doesn't mean that we close our hearts to human suffering. We maybe instead of focusing so much about what's happening in news, we instead turn our attention to what's happening in our communities. We start local, and that's
Yeah.
maybe a good start.
Well, first of all, even look in the mirror. Start there.
Start
Okay.
with you.
Start there.
Start with you.
You can, once you get yourself okay, you can help your neighbor. From there, you can
Yeah.
help your neighborhood. Then you can help your community. Then, you can get the community to help the state. So whatever.
Oh,
It grows.
that's
It's like paying it forward, and it
that
works.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful, Gina. That's just like there was like a old quote from Confucius, that basically said, you know, to get your house in order, you need to get yourself in order first, right? To get your village in, I'm paraphrasing, right? I'm probably butchering his quote, but to get your village in order, you got to get your house in order. To get your country in order, get your village in order. Just like you said, Gina,
See,
it
so
goes up and
in Confucius without even knowing.
there you
It just
go.
makes sense. It's common sense. And the sad thing is a lot of people don't have that, but a lot of people do. So listen to the people that do. Listen to
And
shows like that. Share the show, will you please?
share the show.
Share the
And I
show.
think I think however you do it, prayer
Oh,
is absolutely vital during this time. It doesn't matter if it's coming in the form of praying to Christ, praying to any of the archangels, praying to Buddha, and the taking the vow of the Bodhisattva, praying to Krishna or Shiva. It doesn't matter if praying to the Divine Mother, however your connection to the One manifests, foster that connection right now, because it's literally been proven that when people gather in prayer, there were literally shifts to the physical world that happens. I mean, there were remarkable studies have been shown in
Yeah.
war-torn areas.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
energy that
it's an
emits
energy.
from it. If we could have aura cameras on those people, or thermal cameras even on prayer groups or drum circles or Native American, all those things. If you could have a camera, you can prove these things. You can
Oh,
see it. If you need to be able to see it, that would be the way to see it.
and
And
Gina, you don't even have to when people gather in prayer, and
you
like you
feel.
said, or any kind of activities of the spirit, like you said, the drum circles. I've been in some very powerful drum circles myself, and it feels like prayer or a group meditation. It's powerful. You don't even need to see anything. No one needs to convince you of anything because you could feel that. And I think engaging in soulful prayer is vital right now. And we can even do that from the safety of our houses. If people can be in different physical locations and still gathering over prayer. Prayer doesn't
Yeah.
recognize
You
physical
have
boundaries.
you have this. You have internet.
What
You
we're
have
doing now.
Zoom. You have whatever. You can have hundreds of people on a Zoom call, and do this. So there are ways to connect. And then if you can't get on internet, go to the library. Get on their internet,
Absolutely.
you know. But you also brought up here too, and I want to we were kind of touching on this here. Um, you talk a lot about the Native Americans and everything, how relevant that is, and I hate how we've treated those people, because those people probably could have cured all this if we had just treated them right. But I'm going to kind of go down. This is midway through the book, and you're talking about the revelation, the second revelation. Your way of life is destructive. All right, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to cut down to this part. Based on your current actions, it appears that your political leaders and captains of industry show a little care for the fate of our planet. Massive deforestation, catastrophic climate change related events, oil and nuclear spills, widespread contamination of rivers, lakes, and oceans, as well as mass extinction of many species, are just a sample of how your worship of consumerism has desecrated my body and spirit. Now, I like the way that you put all that into my body and spirit. That's everybody's body and spirit. That last line was the one that really got me. Like, yes, I agree with all this. They just don't. You don't think of what you're destroying when you're going and wiping out these forests to build a damn strip mall. And it's like you've got so many other places that have horrible buildings on them. Tear them down, build your strip mall there. Right? Leave the forest alone. We need to breathe, right? Trees are ways to breathe. Those forests that you're ripping down could have the cure for everything. If we didn't abuse the Native Americans in the world, they might have already had the cure for all these things that ail us, maybe even cancer. However, what did we do to them? It's just horrible. And it's just like, man is a disease. It really, it truly is. And this is what needs to happen to change that. It's not too late yet. It's getting to that point, right? We're like so
So
close to the too late point, but now I think we're seeing that, and we have to change that, and help the
we
planet and help the people, as opposed to help yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, the farther you go down on your own spiritual path, the simple truth you start to realize is how truly connected everything is. Not just people, but our relationship to the earth. And truly, whatever we do to the earth we do to ourselves. So every time we destroy a tree, where, tear down forests, we're really tearing down ourselves. Every time we uh, desecrate the oceans, all we're really doing is desecrating ourselves. And so I think,
And now they want to start desecrating the space. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, we came from somewhere, and it's up there
exactly,
and it's out there. And they want to start throwing our trash out into space.
it's insane.
Seriously?
It's insane. It's
It,
madness. It's madness,
it
and
really isn't
it,
it? Oh my
it's
God.
madness. It's utter madness. And I think we have a roadmap to follow into a more conscious and compassionate way of living with each other and with the earth. And what I argued in the book is that Native American philosophy and Native American spirituality, they got it right, right? And I'm not trying to overly romanticize Native American communities or Native American spirituality. Certainly there's many Native American communities that are severely struggling right now with very real problems, but mostly caused from colonization and everything, right? But the they have wisdom. They have wisdom, and if we destroy Native American traditions and cultures, we destroy the roots of our wisdom. And it's no wonder that we find ourselves in the path we're on because we're attacking our roots. And I really do believe that a big part of this expansion in consciousness, this new age, this golden age, this leap in our soulful evolution, one of the hallmarkers we'll see is starting to realize that the earth is sacred and that the traditions that honor the earth is sacred, namely our indigenous peoples, they are sacred. And they are the spokespeople for the the age of wisdom.
Hmm. Well, you can't argue with that. I mean, it's true. They lived off this land, on the land, for the land. They never left anything in a shambles. If a community of Native Americans had to move, you didn't even know there was a trace of them left. You know, everything was cleaned up. The ground and the earth was perfect. You know, they didn't go in and bulldoze everything and knock down every damn tree in sight. And then, oh, well, we don't want to build here. We're going to leave that and go build over here. I mean, it's like my house in Oxford, I moved just in time. I bought it because it was up on that mountain. There was one house next to me, and then there was miles of nothing but woods. I loved it, right?
It's
And that was my
beautiful.
nature. I had my fox families coming in, 2 fox families. I had all my animals coming through, loved it. They go up and eat the apples and play. And then I'm selling my house, and they decided they always said that the land next to us. Here's a good greed. Okay, partners owned all that land. As they were partners, none of that thing perked. One partner sold to the other finally, and then lo and behold, because that guy knew the people in town, all that land perked. So now he sells off all these chunks. They're building all these houses everywhere. They came in at the beginning of a winter, no less, with those giant machines that have that huge blade like the size of a house on an arm of the thing. Bam! Like it would go through a tree in like 5 seconds. Whoa! And then this other big arm would slam the tree down. Bam! A bird wouldn't even have a chance to fly off a branch. I was crying. I was literally in tears thinking, oh my God, what are these animals going to do? They just built all their homes in here. And they just did that. They caused all this mass destruction, left all those trees all winter. They didn't come in until spring to pull them out and start doing their building stuff. Why couldn't they have left that at least for the winter and let the animals have their homes that they built, for the winter? I was just like
Man,
mortified that this is what's happened.
yeah, that's a horrific story. And sadly, that story you just told, Gina, I felt it in here,
Yeah, I know, right? It
telling
just,
that.
oh my God, I couldn't even believe it. I had to go in the house and I had to get out, back away from it. I mean, I was in tears. I was just like, what are you doing? It's like, I never seen such,
It's that madness you speak about, right? It's that utter madness of uh,
greed and greed.
greed, pure greed, in order to chase an illusionary dollar, something that's not even real. It's only relatively real, right? And it's buying into that illusion of separateness again, right? And uh, that would have been unfathomable. That kind of scene you just described would be unfathomable to the indigenous traditions. That wouldn't even be something that would even be considered to be
No,
done.
no,
And what
no.
that
They did
suggests,
things out of necessity. If they needed that tree
yeah,
for firewood, they'd find the
there
dead one.
was there was one dead tree, and every part of that tree was used. It's the
Right,
same thing in taking an animal's life.
right. Every part of the animal is used.
They took one deer, and that deer fed as many people as it could, and the hooves were used, and the horns were used, and everything was used for for clothing or jewelry, for food. There was nothing that went to waste. But
Right.
and that's again, these types of things. Hopefully this last year has given people some time to step back and be like, whoa, maybe that's crazy to tear down entire forests. Maybe that's crazy that there's a garbage landfill the size of Texas in the middle of the ocean. Maybe uh, maybe we don't, maybe I don't need, maybe oil isn't the best way to move forward. Maybe we really do have to move towards alternative energies, like all of that stuff. Like, this last year's given people some time to assess and slow down enough. And I think, Gina, a lot of our tolerance for all these atrocities that we do to the planet is largely because we're so distracted on a day-to-day level. We're go, 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 which again, why is meditation is vitally important. Getting out into nature is vitally important. But for the first time in a long while, we've gotten to slow down a little bit and look at the world the way it is. And hopefully we wake up a little bit, and I'm hopeful. I really, for the record, you may call me idealist or overly optimistic, but I truly believe that we will evolve past our harmful ways of living.
I certainly hope so. We here at the Box Town, we try so hard to put out all kinds of information, all kinds of shows, bring all kinds of people. You're amazing, um, to get to this point, and just have a heart. You know what I mean? Just have a heart. Just think of your neighbor as opposed to, well, what are they going to do for me? If I'm going to do that, what are they going to do for me? Stop it. Stop it. Okay? It's not what the world, that's not how we're meant to be. That is not how everything in our being is, as humans, are to help others.
Exactly.
That's what's instilled in us. Go back to that. When you start
Well, that,
meditating
and
and
that's what brings us, and that's what brings us true happiness, is when we serve others. I mean, think about this for a second. Even a simple, nice act. Think of something very basic, like a friend is sick, and you bring them food. It makes you feel good.
right,
Not in the feel good sense that I want recognition for it. In
right.
the feel good sense, like, oh, they're uplifted and they feel good. That's naturally who we are. That's what we are. That's and
And that doesn't mean that doesn't it goes beyond the color of your skin, where you live, how much
doesn't
money you have
matter.
or don't have. None of that matters.
None of that matters. What are you going to take money with you? Does when move into the next. Seriously, when you drop your body, when you pass away, and you move wherever your soul goes next to its next realm, are you taking money with you? No. If anything, you're going to be like, when you're out of your body, you might be like, I spent all those years worried about money, and here I am now, and there's nothing physical, tangible that I can take with me. I'm not even a physical entity anymore. Why was I so attached to that thing? It's not. It's we need it to survive, but money in itself.
Wants and needs.
Yeah,
Those are two different things.
wants and needs, and we've become consumed by money, which is at the root of our sickness. And it's not a coincidence that, right, Gina? It's not a coincidence that Jesus and Buddha and Mohammed and all the Hindu saints, right? Whether we're talking about Ramana Maharshi or or anybody we're talking about, Neem Karoli Baba, Ram Dass's guru, whoever we're talking about, they all taught the same thing. Don't be consumed by money. Focus on the inner treasures in here. And that's I hope that this last year has given us a little bit of insight into the fact that chasing money doesn't make us happy. Doesn't make us chasing status, chasing fame, and chasing power. Those things do not bring us happy. What makes us happy is connecting to the greater whole, doing things that connect us to each other and to the earth. That's what makes us happy.
On that note, we have to take a little break. I'm going to play our sponsor ad, and then what we've been talking about and how I've connected. We have Athena Bari. She is going to be doing our wonderful crystal of the week, one that, probably will bear some relevance to the show that we're doing tonight. And it's awesome. So she's going to be here as soon as this little video ends. And then we're all going to be back. She's going to actually stay on. She's going to be the new Mama D for the second half of the show, stepping in for her. And so up first for our Athena. And we are just so grateful to have had her. She started as a guest on our show, and here's our soul family growing because she's amazing. So she'll be with us in just a minute.
The Fox Den is now proudly sponsored by Vortex Ghost Gear, ghost hunting equipment made by an actual ghost hunter. Bob Christopher has been creating custom gear for decades. Vortex has equipment for all manner of investigating, such as proximity meters, which include the HTO, the V-Pod, and the trigger prop cats and dogs. For vibration, use the geophone. For manifestation, use the static dome, also offering fully customizable equipment designed for your specifications, such as using your team logo, theme, or a character. Our first, the Cryptochords box for motion and temperature, which also includes custom music, and the other customizable item is the Easy Scan Ghost Box. Visit www.vortexghostgear.com and get your equipment today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you can all hear me this time. My name is Athena Bari. I am Crystal Reiki healer and author of Raise Your Vibes. And I'm so pleased and grateful to be back this week to share with you our crystal for the week. And I thought for today's show, one that really resonated for me and very in line with the show and what we're discussing, it would be green calcite. So let's see if you guys can see that here. This gorgeous stone here, it's one of my favorite stones for physical healing. So when I was going through my own bouts of illness and pain and things like this, I worked with green calcite a lot because this is one of my favorites for actually physical healing. What happens with this one is it activates our heart chakra so that any emotional or even spiritual ailments that we have, which as we know, tend to manifest themselves physically. This helps heal those wounds so that in turn your body, kind of your physical body, then follows and can heal with that beautiful, loving touch, which is so great. This stone is wonderful also for social anxiety. So as we're coming out of this pandemic and we're moving back into the social circles of people, a lot of us are experiencing some social anxiety. So this one is really good for helping us to just kind of calm down, soothe our nerves, and really work from a place of love and from our heart, so that what we're speaking, what we're feeling, how we're interacting, instead of having this bottled up stress or anger maybe that has been kind of pushed down, now we can speak from a place of love because we are working with our green calcite. So this is a very soft stone, so it doesn't make for very good jewelry. As you can see, it kind of breaks it apart into little pieces like this. So, and if it does break, these are wonderful for your crystal grids if you guys wanted to try a crystal grid. And so instead of using this like I would other stones for jewelry, I love to use this one just to keep us close. And you can place it directly over your heart center when you're laying down. If you are sick and you've got a cold, you've got a flu, you've got COVID, one of these, this is great to keep close to you. So, keep it by your, under your pillow. I know this one's kind of big for under a pillow, but it really doesn't bother you much. So just keep it close to you. You can keep it in your pocket. I always like to keep these little ones tucked away in my bra or in a pocket, in a purse even. And meditating with these are really wonderful too, especially when you're not feeling well. This just really helps your body align to the energy of this crystal so that you can heal physically and emotionally. So back to that physically and emotionally, it's really great for any old traumas that you've had. Again, those repressed emotional wounds. This helps ease those out so you can heal from them. And it's a very gentle touch, which is really important when you're dealing with something that is of an emotional nature. This also is really great for energy. So likewise, when you are sick, you're not feeling well, you're very low energy because your body is working so hard to heal yourself, right? So this one gives you kind of that extra little push to keep you going and just feeling a lot more vibrant. An affirmation that I really love to work with this stone is, I listen and follow my heart-centered compass so I may heal. And that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and go get yourselves a piece of green calcite. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Hello.
So that was amazing. And let me just throw this up here too real quick. All right, so that was it, green calcite. So if you are listening to one of our audio only venues, please go over to our YouTube channel. Okay, that is the Fox Den with Gina B and Mama D, and watch this show with Forrest Rivers so you can see all the things that we put up here, all the comments that we put up on the screen that we didn't verbalize. You can see us, you can see the things that we're showing you. All right, so really important, and it's good to share the show too. But thanks, and Athena is now the Mama D's spot.
Oh, well, we miss Mama D. She is so lovely, isn't she? She's like this sweetheart on here, and she's always putting up all the little comments and stuff for everybody to see, which is great. So sorry, I don't know how to do that.
No, I got it.
All right.
Okay. So Forrest, this is our Athena, Forrest.
Nice to meet you, Athena.
Forrest, so lovely to meet you. I hope that this helped and brought some value and, some, maybe a little added bit of good karma towards your book. I hope
I feel. I love it. I'm definitely gonna go look for that stone. So it's beautiful.
Yes, it is a good one.
Stone every week too. And you saw she was talking about meditation. She also has in her books too. She has some meditations in there, and she's one perfect one for this. I think she's a great addition to the show, as Mama D would be, because being a Reiki master, she's a crystal healing Reiki master, So, yes, totally, totally needed. I think the world needs more people like this.
I vote yes. I vote yes.
Hello, Gina. Love learning about the
Oh, hi,
crystals with you.
Nadine. Mwah, how are you, love? Thank you for stopping in here to see us.
Yes, it's
Oh,
awesome.
Nadine's
It's
lovely.
awesome. Yes,
I think what's really clear to me is that everybody has a very unique role to play in the evolving consciousness right now, and it's clear that everybody has their own unique God-given talents, and we're all going to be playing a role in shifting that consciousness, and it's inspiring.
I love that. Yes. Well, we're all connected. So, everybody's kind of playing their part. And, during this pandemic, we were all kind of locked away. But at the same time, so many people from all around the world came to know each other because we were all of a sudden living life like this, on a screen. And I mean, look, now we're meeting each other, which is so wonderful.
So cool.
I'm so grateful for the connections I've made and the people I've met, and we are really evolving, like you said. Our consciousness is, it's almost like it's just opening up, because now we're able to place value on things that maybe we took for granted before.
People absolutely people are craving that connection to spirit, and we're seeing that manifesting into our day-to-day lives more than any time before. People want desperately that wholesome connection. I couldn't agree more.
Yes. And so there's, people like yourself who have written books that can guide people towards this. Because yes, it's one thing to want it. Yes, I want it. I want to connect to spirit, but not everybody has that intuitive know-how, I guess we'll say. It's like, well, where do I start? Where do I begin? So with, something like, your book here, which is so great, this can help people say, oh, okay, now I have a direction. Now I know where to start, where I can go, and how to use this newly intuned, feeling of spirit for my higher good, and for, to make the world a little bit better as well. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think this has been a very important time to sort of like cultivate that growth in spirit. This has been a time of great suffering, but it's also been a great time of renewal, to dive deep into the depths of our being. And I truly believe that, I said this to Gina earlier, when we look back at this event 5, 10, 15 years down the road, we're going to be astonished at how much, when we look back, how much we recognize this as a crucial juncture in our leap in consciousness. And I do truly believe that. And I've been inspired by the people I've met over this last year, and I've never seen anything like this. I told Gina maybe the 60s and 70s had that kind of feel possibly to it. Something tells me this is even beyond that, though. So.
Well, we did enter the age of Aquarius.
Yes, we did, didn't we? Right on time. Here,
Right.
Pandemic. Why don't you let's see how you do that. I mean,
here's your pandemic. Throw in an economic crash. Throw in crazy amounts of division and conflict. It's you gotta laugh, though. On some level, laughter is the true voice of the spirit. You gotta laugh. I mean, because
it releases the good endorphins too. That's a help, a kick in the butt for healing. It really is, because and things like attracts like. right?
Yes.
So
Exactly.
laughing and laughter attracts more laughing and laughter. So
Speaking of which, isn't it amazing how over the last year I've noticed the I've always been kind of, I'm sure you too have, I've always been aware of like synchronicities, and uh, I don't really believe in coincidences personally.
no,
I think
no,
everything is, I'm sure I'm speaking the same language as you
You're in
too.
the right place. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but it's amazing how much that's been amplified over the last year. Finding yourself around the right people at the perfect time, and it's it's very comforting to these kinds of programs, these kinds of podcasts, these uplifting, consciousness raising podcasts become a gathering of souls. It's not any different than people
our
gathering.
soul family is growing and growing and growing. We've been talking about, like I said before, we were talking about that for years. Why is the soul family so important? Why is it, what is going to happen that's going to draw the soul family close together? And it is of grave importance.
We're,
I've
we're
known it. I've known it. I've been feeling that almost every single time when I do meditate and really get into it. This is what goes over and over and over in my head. It's like, there's something big, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. We need to gather like minds. We need to gather the energy. The energy needs to flow. And we know how it does on the planet. It does, and it can flow from continent to continent, like you said, like we were talking about the prayer of gathering of people, the prayer, the energy that creates.
Yes.
It travels.
everything is vibration, and
Right.
everything is pure energy and pure spirit. And it, the more that we tune into that, and the more that we actively seek to connect to the greater whole, the better off we'll all be. And that's why each individual awakening is crucial for the collective consciousness. Consciousness doesn't just evolve collectively without individuals doing the work on themselves first. And this period has given us uh, ample challenges and opportunities to work with growth. And if you're not,
Yes, because most healers, if you listen to their stories, most healers have been through great struggle, great pain, huge traumas, like things that your average person hasn't dealt with before, and they overcome this. And through that pain, they transform, like they transcend and realize, I mean, like myself, I need to share this with as many people as I can. People need to know what's going to help them. And during this pandemic, it was so interesting because so many people at the same time were going through, some serious trauma, whether it was physical, whether it was grieving somebody who they'd lost or who was sick, or even just the fear. I mean, living in this fear that we've been under for so long. This really triggered people, and that's kind of, I think, part of it. I mean, there's always a silver lining, right? I know this was not fun, and most people would probably say, oh, if we could just wipe it out and go back to before, I would. But we can't. Like, that's not how it works. And because we've now been through this collectively, this huge event that was painful and traumatic, it's causing a lot of growth all at once, which is
all at once.
And you
and bringing it together.
Well, we were
Athena,
talking earlier, like it erases our separation, right? Our continental separation and that great divide. What you talk about in your book, what you're talking about right there, because we are one people, again, not the color of your skin, not where you're born, not how much money you have, none of that matters. Everything is here.
Everything is there. And there is something I wanted to say here that was from, I think I have my copy right here. Okay, there's a quote. I believe I started the book with it. Yeah, that's it. The light comes gently, slowly, but surely it comes. And that was from Vivekananda. And that's a quote I think can be useful to remember during an otherwise dark period is light doesn't just emerge. Light comes out of darkness, right? It comes out of darkness. Think about, when the sun rises, it's rising and signaling an end to the night, and I think that's where we're at right now. I think we're a rising sun, out of a night of darkness. And I
hope so.
I know I really do.
Yeah, it has to. It has to.
Ready.
Well,
Every time we say though, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to like jinx us and say can't get worse.
I think even the most ridiculous behavior. I may be alone in this thought, but I think even the most ridiculous behaviors we've seen during this, and even the most ridiculous reactions we've seen in this, and all the insanity and all of the division and all of the unrest, I think that actually is all part of our coming to consciousness. I think it's all part of the same thing, that even the absurd things are teaching us quite a bit right now. And we're reckoning, because what that does is when we see something that's absurd and outlandish, that's a moment of, aha, that's not what I really want to cultivate moving forward. So everything
Not keep this going. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
And it's important to know what not to do, just like it's important, what works for you. And
what works
when you know what doesn't work for you, you can gravitate more towards what you are aligned with and what you vibrate closer to, and bring more of that, into your world. And when you do that, you also, as you were saying, like attracts like, you pull that energy closer to you. And that includes, other people. I mean, it's not about who we are, where we came from, like you said, the money, the skin, like this is all just like, a skin suit anyway, right? I mean, how long does this really last? But
it's just your space suit. It's your space suit for this incarnation.
Yeah. Right. Yes. No, it is that we're like borrowing this, this is all, borrowed time. So, but what's at the heart of a person, this is what, carries on. This is what lives on. And we're all here, having this experience, and we're, learning lessons as we go. And come on, life is just this one long journey of lessons. And, sometimes we're going to get it wrong. Sometimes we're going to make mistakes, but, if we can learn from those mistakes and not repeat them.
That's a big word. If we can learn.
If. Yes.
Big phrase. Yeah.
I'm hopeful, I'm hopeful.
I am too.
I've seen so many people struggle through this and overcome it and come out of it stronger. One of my closest friends, my best friend, she got COVID, and the worst part of having COVID was the anxiety that went with it, because at this point we had about 9 months of major brainwashing. You're going to die if you get it. Like, that's it. You're done. And so she just was convinced, this is it. I'm going to die. Like, I'm dying. And every symptom that would come up was like, this is it. This is the moment. And so that was almost like the worst part. And trying to, pull people back out of that mindset was really hard. Now, I'm not saying, everybody made it out alive. Okay. We all, not everybody did, I know. So I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm just showing the flip side of this, where, a lot of people did get it. And, they were able to push through it. Their bodies were able to come through this. Our skin suits, our space suits, right? We're able to transcend this. And when they came out on the other side, it kind of gave them, this new perspective. Like, okay, maybe it wasn't quite what they were telling me it was. I mean, obviously I still need to wash my hands and take care of myself and all that, take my vitamins, right? But it wasn't quite how it has maybe been spun.
I think, I've personally always thought I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole here, but I've always thought that every side has sort of gone a little bit nuts with the COVID narratives. I've always been kind of down the middle, like I acknowledge I know people, like my sister's an ER doctor, and she's told me the horror stories that actually, Gina, a lot of the stuff you've endured, People who have had long COVID, people who have died. She's knows numerous doctors who are facing lawsuits for issues that have come up with malpractice suits, and she's been with people who have died, and she's told me horror stories. And then I've also known many friends in southern Appalachia, where I live in the mountains, who have had COVID and they were perfectly fine, and they came out the other side stronger than when they entered. And I think the truth is there have been numerous
Even if
people.
you're not, even if you're not stronger though, like I'm not stronger.
Yes.
However, I'm just different, right?
Yes.
Yes,
and
that's
now this is the thing. Right now, I have to adapt. Okay, for the position I'm in, for the work I've done my entire life, very physical labor, physical stuff. I need that. Physical labor, physical stuff, physical things. I cannot do those things anymore. So now, and I've been putting this off for many years to get more introverted, to get more into my meditations, to get more into my spiritual side, to kind of let that intuitive side take over. Because, me, a little bit of a control freak.
So your lesson then in all this COVID is your body really forcing you, right, to slow down, to focus in on the things. And that was one of the positives. Again, a silver lining. Maybe it's my Sagittarius rising, as I'm always looking for the silver lining. And anytime there's a physical illness, and believe me, I have had some major things myself, like convalescent style. And it really, I had a back surgery. I lived with chronic pain for 16 years, and it ended with a fusion, lumbar fusion. So I was pretty convalescent for about 3 months. And let me tell you, it's a very humbling time when you're going through that. Likewise with, long COVID, likewise with cancer, any of these other major events or near death experiences really force us to turn inward and listen to what's really important, what really matters, and then how to shift our energy towards that moving forward. I mean, Gina, you're going to recover from this. This is not going to stay with you forever.
It is.
No,
it's a. No,
yes, you have a lung thing, but I mean, it's not going to be this debilitating thing for you for your whole life. You're going to be able to now shift your focus, your energy, adapt in a new way. I mean, look, I have 6 screws and 2 brackets in there. No, I am not going to be bungee jumping. I am not going to be doing any major physical sports. Like, those days are over. And you know what? I'm okay with that, because I can move forward and I can focus on the things that really are important.
And you bring all this love, light, energy.
You really do.
Great vibes for everybody. So you're not wallowing in the old poor me. I'm trying not to wallow in the old poor me.
It's a process.
I think Athena brings an interesting point here. There's a lot of opportunities that have come out of COVID for personal empowerment. Not only the very real suffering that people like Gina, right, are going through and trying to overcome. And Gina, so I'm looking for, my heart goes out to everything that you're going through right now. And I have faith too that you're going to get through this, for the record. And, I can't imagine the suffering you're going through, but you will get through this. You're a strong soul. But I think I've known people who have lost businesses, during this time. And at first their thought was, this is complete disaster. And then I encouraged them, a couple of my friends, I'm like, just sit down, meditate a few minutes a day, reflect on this a little bit. And now the friend came to me recently and was like, well, I'm going to go experiment with off the grid living. I'm going to take my RV now with my partner, and we're going to go live off the grid. Cool opportunity. I haven't had this happen before.
As a designer, that I worked.
They're happier than ever. Like,
bottom of my life. I used to watch those shows with them people building off grid. I loved those shows. Some of the things they came up with were so inventive, so cool. And then
oh,
living
it's
off the
amazing.
land as well, you know.
And there was something in he wouldn't mind me telling this story. It's my friend John, and he uh, he he called me one day. He doesn't get really service where he is ever, so he was in town. It's out in Utah, and he goes to me. He's like, every day I wake up now, and I'm just feel like the luckiest person ever. I wake up. He's living off the grid on like 10 acres, like trails out the door with the sun rising every day in the desert. And he's like, I'm blown away every day I wake. I feel close to creation. And I miss this every day. I was, slaving away at my job. I miss this like connection, this essence, this humanness. And he's happier than he's ever been, but he has less money than he's ever had. And he's like, I just
I
realized
mean, that's worries. Right.
how money did, I was a slave to money, and it wasn't what was feeding my spirit. I needed to connect to nature. And there's been a lot of stories like that have come out of COVID. I have another friend, my friend
You've got some
Alex.
good stories in the book about just those things. Some of the people that you
Oh,
talked to, amazing.
one of the most inspiring. This is just so cool. I spent a lot of time hiking, so I'm surprised, right? I'm always out, I'm always out in the woods, and the
Forrest Rivers with a name like Forrest Rivers.
I know.
it's
I guess it's only fitting, right? Your mom knew. Or your
oh my
dad.
gosh. So there was a great story. During the height of the pandemic, I met he was like 56, 57 years old. He wasn't very young, and he was on the Appalachian Trail. We met on a mountaintop at one of the intersects, and his name was Noble. That was his trail name. AT hikers all have a trail name, and I asked him. I go, well, that's crazy that you're out here during the pandemic. That's like that takes some courage. And he said, I'm just following my destiny. This is my destiny. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is my path. This is my love and my passion. It's what feeds my spirit. And he made it all the way 2,100 miles. He's like, I wasn't most years on the Appalachian Trail. Every 4 or 5 days, you can stop into a town, get some lodging, but everything was closed down in 2020. So he's like, I just spent a lot of time, more than I ever thought, camping, and I felt more connected than I've ever had. And he sent me a picture. I didn't talk about this in the book because it came after, but he sent me some pictures making it all the way from Georgia to Maine. He sent me pictures from Maine. And your stories like that.
All three trails.
He had done all three trails. Yep, he had done the Appalachian Trail, the Continental Divide Trail, and the Pacific Crest Trail. And his story made me want to go hike the entire AT, and I will in the next few years for sure. And
Well,
it was one of those things. It was just one of those stories. Yeah, start with the first one. Start with the AT first. But his story, I felt like was a metaphor for what COVID could be. The overcoming of adversity. He had a lot of adversity. I remember his stories. He had lost a partner. He had battled serious sickness. I believe he had overcome cancer when he was younger. And he said COVID was just his time. He was like, well, I'm out of work right now. This is it. And he did it. So, it's a metaphor for in the face of adversity, in the face of suffering, you can use that for your own inner awakening, for your own growth, and for your own quest of spirit. And
But again, it's like this is your opportunity. Do something that you love, right? Finally, if you can't do your job that you hated anyway going to every single day and you dreaded it,
yeah.
and it's like, oh, I gotta go to this place again. Oh my God, just because they give me a paycheck. And then it closes down, and it's like, oh well, geez, what can I do now? Maybe something I like, because they always said, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So
Exactly.
This is what I tell my kids. Just whatever you grow up and you want to do, just make sure you love it. And then it's not going to feel like, work. It's not going to feel like it's hard. It's not going to feel like, I mean, there'll be moments it's hard. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's like, with anything else, when you work towards goals, you are working, you got to put in the work. But if it's something that you love, it's not a chore. It doesn't feel like a
No.
burden. And, hiking was one of those things that when I was going through all my stuff with my back leading up to the surgery, and my doctor had said, what is like the one thing, that you really want to do again that you can't do? And it was like, I'd really love to go hiking again. Like, I really miss hiking. And I grew up a ballerina. So even beyond, dancing, which I love dancing too. But hiking, just because it was like, my mom used to take me out when I was a baby in her little carrier. And I guess it just rubbed off on me, where it was like, I need to be outside. I need to be in nature. And during COVID, we couldn't go anywhere. So we would go, hiking and so I even got my kids to go, like, come on, let's go. I mean, I would have a brace. I have my walking stick. I have to take care of myself, like we were saying, like, you're going to do things differently. There, it is going to be an adjustment. But it was so wonderful too, to be able to go out and experience nature. And I feel like we were so locked in that people were just so, like, oh my gosh, get me out into nature. Like, oh my God, I can smell fresh air again. Like, wow, this is amazing. Cause we were all so locked into, and some people like really in, very small little apartments. In Italy, it was really sad. They were locked up in they have very small flats anyway. They call them flats. And a lot of Europe, they were in these tiny little flats, and they were just locked away. And it was like, okay, can't you go outside and, just put your feet in the grass? And they're like, we'll get a ticket if we go outside.
It's crazy.
I mean,
that broke my heart to hear that, because I got to be honest, I've been blessed beyond belief. The last 8 years I've lived in mountains, with nature out my back door and trails out my back door. And I've spent my last 8 years back and forth between living in the mountains of Colorado and living in the beautiful Smoky Mountains. And not having a life connected to nature would be like a hell for me, living hell. Yep. But it made me realize that maybe one of at least my path is I need to bring people to nature. That's like one of the callings
maybe people could think about this as in, I could sponsor someone in a different country. I could maybe bring a child in, that wants to do a year of schooling here. Let them live in the country, let them connect with nature, that they don't
nature.
Have
Well, one thing that I'm making a move towards myself is wilderness therapy. And I wholeheartedly believe in wilderness therapy. And I think nature is for me, nature has been a godsend. It's what helped me, conquer the worst periods of my alcohol abuse. And nature has been literally a savior. And if it can save me, it can save anybody. I'm not special. I'm just another being. And nature is a true savior. And COVID, I think to Athena's point, COVID definitely brought that intuitive, instinctual feeling of wanting to reconnect to the natural world. And I think that is an absolute remedy during this time. In fact, I would argue a lot of the trouble we've gotten into as a species is due to our disconnection from our divine mother, from the earth. That we've become so disconnected from her. That is the root fundamentally of our problems. If I had there's a lot of problems, but if I had to pinpoint, think about it. If when you're in nature, your judging mind shuts off, your sense of separation dissolves into one, you truly connect with everything within you and around you. There's really no place for ego, is what I'm trying to say, in the natural world. And
really, you're an electric being, you're this body of energy. And when you do connect to nature, you literally are grounding yourself to our Mother
Yeah.
Earth, just like when you stick a light bulb, a plug into the wall, there's a grounding. One is grounding, one is live, right? And we're constantly on live. We're like hardwired, like zzz, everybody's like, I gotta go, I gotta move, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I have 1,000 things. Oh my God. And then you go to nature and it's like Mother Earth just goes, and we're just gonna take it down.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly. I mean, how many? And I'm sure everybody here has experienced that. You enter,
Yes.
you go swimming in the ocean, or you go walking in the woods, and your first couple minutes, your mind is racing and it's pulsating and going every which way. And then, 5 minutes in, you're 10 minutes in, it starts to slow down, a little calmer. And then before you know it, you're like, I can hear my breath. I can, my mind's not racing. I'm here. I'm
You
here.
even see differently, because
You
you're
see
not,
differently.
your vision isn't blocked by walls and, obstructions. So,
Exactly.
even your vision becomes so much wider and broader and sharper.
Yes, definitely. And this is another point of COVID too, in the shutdown, Earth being able to heal itself. People are seeing skies that they haven't seen in a long time because of lack of smog. Now that's disappearing again, unfortunately. But
It was amazing. LA, we don't have blue skies here.
Right? I know. So we're all on
Blue
different,
skies. Like, wow. I know. And then it's like, wait, guys, who didn't get the lesson here? Why are we just restarting and going back to business as usual? Like, we're
I heard that.
grow from this, right?
There's no need to go. There's no need to be jam packed on roads again. I mean, though, by the way, being in LA, I've been there once, and I just remembered like the eight lanes on the highway, and just being like,
full.
This is this is kind of scary. Yeah,
I know. Well, how does traffic even? That's a whole nother show. What the hell happens that everyone stops? I mean, why?
Well, what's crazy now is there's traffic all day long. There's no like rush hour, like, when people go to work and then when people leave work, it's like all the time, all day long. I'm like, okay, so wait, we're all back out, but where are you people going? Like,
I know, right?
What is this? Like, I'm just trying to get like down the street and I can't get there because there's so many cars. It's bizarre. When my husband was, my husband drives over the hill, as we call it over here. And it was like a 20-minute drive when it was Corona, when it was when we were in the lockdown phase of LA, and we're finally kind of coming out of the lockdown. We've been slower than most places around the country, but when we were in full on, it was like a 20-minute drive when he started going back to work, and now he's back at a good solid hour sitting in that car. He's like, oh my gosh, like. And I don't get it because so many people are still working from home. So I'm kind of, I'm confused. I don't know what happened there. Somebody missed the memo. I mean, come on, guys.
I don't know if the memo just got lost in transit. Or I have no idea.
Man, it raises an interesting point, though. It's like we need to evolve past the madness. The madness of this, the machine. I just call it the machine, the machine of society, and I really believe that hopefully out of this period, if enough of us awaken, more and more of us will follow the idea of, I like the phrase from the 60s, turn on, tune in, drop out. And people think that that's saying, turn on to psychedelics and tune in, turn out. Really, what he was talking about, I guess it was one of those double entendres or whatever, but he was really saying, turn out from the machine, the outer propaganda of conditioning, tune into living spirit and be as one, right? And that's,
Right.
I hope more of us move in that direction where we really question the aimlessness of day-to-day life.
When we were teenagers and hippies and doing our psychedelics, we did them for a little different reasons. But than say the Native Americans and why they did theirs for their reasons, you know. But yeah, it's still we're connecting with something. Connecting with something.
You sure do.
You know what?
Yeah.
You were disconnecting from the machine, whether it was intentional or not intentional. I mean, you know, I love those silver linings, right? So, okay, so everybody was like off their heads, but even off your heads, you were not plugged in the machine. Like you had that moment of, you know, checking out where you're really
and that's why
from that imposed reality that's
yes, you were, and that's and people were starting to realize, oh my gosh, look, there's a world of living spirit. That's the true authority, and that authority is found within. And all the other authorities are conditioned authorities, you know, the organized religion and capitalism and you know, all this nonsense, government, you know. We realized that that really wasn't all that important, and that really mattered was consciousness, you know, our interconnectedness, love, really essentially the highest energy.
vibration. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love is the highest vibration. And it's unfortunate that there are these you know, institutions, I guess you would call them, the corporation people, you know, that are put in place. Because it's really about power and control. It's not about faith.
Babylon.
It's not about, yeah, and it's not about
Babylon. Yeah.
Right. So you know, it's nice when people have in these last few months, I think people have really gotten kind of a glimpse of this, like this outside of that box, even with all of our, you know, and with my girlfriend who was so convinced that she was going to die, still she was able afterwards to come out like, whoa, I can have a new perspective and I can see things a little bit differently. And then, you know, of course, everything that happened after was like, wait, am I having this because it's long COVID? Is this because, you know, it was all these like questions, but she was able to really check out and had like 3 weeks, solid weeks home with her kids. This poor woman worked every single day during the pandemic, not even one day off did they give her.
Oh gosh.
She's a pharmacist. So, you know, on the front lines. Oh yeah. She didn't get even one day. And, you know, all of a sudden it was like, oh, you need a break? Okay, we're going to give you COVID. And guess what? Now you get to hang out with your kids for 3 weeks. Like, when was the last time you got to do that? You know? So again, always that silver lining, being able to just kind of check out, be away from the machine, the, you know, the everything that
rat race and everything.
The rat race, the power and control that's really dictating. It really is amazing because it really conditions how we feel and what we think. And Mark,
that is wonderful too. Yeah, tune out the TV. I haven't had TV in years, and I go hiking or just sit in the woods every day. So much more at peace.
Oh,
hey, Mark, that is inspiring. You have made an absolutely beautiful decision in going down that route and spending your time in the woods as opposed to spending your time in front of a TV. And I bet you feel more at peace, like you say. I have no doubt. And that kind of decision you're making are the kind of decisions that we all have the ability to make that can share in our expanding awareness. So good for you. That's inspiring. That's inspiring stuff.
Yep. Now you've mentioned all this stuff that we're talking about. Majority of this stuff, I should say, is in this book. And then when you brought up about, you know, religions and stuff, you even have that back to, and this is one of the things that I printed out, back to religion's roots. And I'm going to again skip down. We need the inspiring wisdom of a Jesus or a Muhammad without the corrupt guidance of religious authorities. Bingo, right? We need to touch the transcendent beauty of the Hindu or Jewish scriptures firsthand through one pointed meditation. And we must see our own Buddha nature reflected in the life-giving rivers that flow effortlessly into the infinite ocean, which is like, what you were saying. This is really and then it goes on, right? So I'll skip down again. For truth, COVID-19 and all its related problems that it has brought to the surface are indicators of a deeper spiritual crisis at hand. So, and that's it, because the corrupt religious authorities, that was like the gripper in that thing right there. Everything, there's always something corrupt in any system. But it's like, it doesn't mean the system is bad. It doesn't mean the concept is bad. Just because there's that corrupt little thing. Everyone doesn't like go throw out their computers, even though they want to. When it goes corrupt, you get it fixed, right? So you try to repair these things. So again, we're trying to repair ourselves. We're trying to go past that, past those.
As I understand it, religion is someone telling you about God. Spirituality is finding God within you. It's no joke that it's not a coincidence that Jesus taught that the kingdom of God is within you. It's not a coincidence that Buddha taught that your Buddha nature is within you. It's intrinsically who you are. It's not a coincidence that the Hindus refer to the self as the God that's within you. That's not and I think the less reliant we become on institutionalized concepts of God or being or oneness, the better off we'll all be. And that's not to say that there aren't churches that cultivate the living spirit. That's not to say that off. There's some beautiful, beautiful ones, beautiful gatherings I've been to. I'm tears when I'm in those settings, but it's to say that we have a lot more to gain from the direct spiritual search within ourselves, and it should be direct mystical experience that we're after, not institutionalized religion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you find that, a lot of people do find that sense of spiritual awakening through their churches or through their ministers. And it's, I don't think we can completely discredit. I think the issue is when we have, some of these churches or synagogues, etc., where there's, fraud involved, where you have that big man on top who sees, and instead of seeing like, look, we have this congregation of beautiful, like-minded, soul-searching, God-worshiping people. Oh, great. Let me take that from their pocketbook. Instead of seeing like, let's help them rise all together, that corrupt part of, our human nature, I guess, comes in, that hunger for power of control. And, and again, also could be a lesson, a flip side. So you can see what not to do and how you don't want to live and how you can continue to hold your faith without the direction of this, person you've put on a pedestal who isn't God, who is a man, just like, me, a woman, just like me, just like you. So
absolutely.
And if they find that faith there, I think it's wonderful. It's just, it's like even in spirituality of people that are so like, I'm the guru, and it's like none of you are the guru.
That's why there are so many religions. It's because I believe all of what you're saying over here, except for this. But I believe what you're saying over here, except for that. So let's form this. Right? And that's how religious,
and that's and that's why I think that's why it's so important. It's so and there's absolutely nothing wrong with if you find your connection at a church or wherever you find your connection is beautiful. But making sure that we're always turning within for our own truth
Yes.
and for our own connection to the one with many names, God, Brahman, Tao, whatever you want to call that supreme source that we're all a part of and one with. And I think that connection comes most importantly in multiple forms. Everybody has a different way of connecting. And
Yes.
that's really important to remember. And I think when I was criticizing a second ago institutionalized religion, I was really referring to that what Athena was getting at is the one size fits all. I know all.
Yeah, right.
Follow me. My way's the right way. That's what I'm referring to. But if you go in to a church knowing that your connection is in the end fostered here within you, first and foremost, then that church is going to absolutely help you spiritually evolve because you're already going in with that awareness.
I love that. Yes.
And
Amen.
you're going for,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm not religious, by the way. Just,
I
saying.
know.
No.
It's Catholic, but it's like I can understand and accept concepts from many religions.
All religions.
All religions, and I practice what works for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what I practice. So
Yeah.
Well, one
I'm
thing,
not going to
one
preach
thing
it
I've been
till you're wrong because you don't feel the way I do.
exactly. One thing I've been amazed by, real quick. I know we're running out of time here soon, but one thing I've been amazed by during this time is I've met people who have different bases where their spirituality grows out of, and I've seen more people connecting to their roots, their spiritual roots, than I've seen at any other time. I have dear friends, dear brother souls who have been connecting to Christianity deeper than ever before, but not the organized Christianity that we may have stereotypes about, the true Christ within. I met more people connecting to Buddhism than any time possible. For me, my connection comes through personally more like Hindu mysticism. That's always been my deep connection. And I've been feeling my connection to beings like Neem Karoli Baba, or Ramana Maharshi or Ramakrishna or Krishna stronger than I've ever felt before. That's important to remember that our face are like multiple paths up a mountain. Picture if you can pick, of course, I'm going to use the mountain metaphor, picture the mountain and we have there's 6 different trails up the mountain, Athena travels one and Gina travels one and I travel one and, Nadine from Malibu travels one who's leaving a comment. Everybody travels a different path. We're not aware that there's other paths. And then we all get to the top and we're all far out. Athena, you found your way here and I found my way here and Gina found her way here and here we all are, and I think that is really magical. And I've seen more people.
This is no coincidence.
No,
this is the silver lining. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, this is the silver lining. So we've been through this, but yes, we have a second left.
We have 2 minutes. Well, 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. So in this 2 minutes, let me kind of throw out all your information here for a second here. All right. So these are the books. Okay, you can get the Hippie Revival in Collected Writings. You can get the COVID-19 book that we were talking about tonight. And let me throw out all your connections here. So forrestrivers.com. You can see him on his blog, forrestrivers.com/his blog. Okay. COVID-19, you can get COVID-19.book info. Sorry, I just butchered that. You know what?
You're
if you're
fine.
listening to the audio, go to the YouTube channel and watch it. All right. So COVID-19book.info/. And more importantly, connect with him on Facebook, Forrest Rivers author page. All right, he's doing a lot on Facebook now. He wants you guys to connect with him there. He is a very good person to have in your back pocket. He is a very good person to bounce off of and watch because there's going to be good things coming from this man. He's going to rewrite this book, and I want a copy of it. I know Mama D wants a copy of it. and it's going to be fabulous. And what
It
do you
has,
got?
there,
I
there's
want
a
your
lot.
final thoughts.
I was just going to say, final thoughts. This is a very important moment for humanity. This is a key juncture in our own evolution as more conscious beings. And I would just encourage everybody to keep the faith, keep the hope, turn within to your own truth within, tune out from all the noise from the outside, connect back to the earth, establish a meditation and prayer practice, and really, really tune in to what we are all a part of. And I just want to let everybody know that there's a lot of suffering right now, but out of that suffering, I promise you, will become uh, will it'll lay the foundation truly for a more peaceful, a more faithful, and a more spiritual world that we all know is possible. So that's all I want to leave people with today.
Athena's
I
silver
love
lining.
that. I'm loving all of that. Yes. The more we can do this and focus on ourselves, the more connected we can feel with each other. And that really is the silver lining
That's
of
it.
all of
That's
this
it.
that we have been through. So,
Get
thank you
get
so
your
much.
get your absolutely
Yes.
get yourself in order, and then you can spread that light to others, and that's how change is going to come about.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Sat here
And
first.
find your
Don't look
soul
at that mirror.
family. Yeah. Look for that
Yeah.
soul
And then
family. There you
Look
go.
for your soul
exactly,
family.
Yes. I
exactly.
love that. I love
Tina,
that.
thank you for stepping in for Mama D tonight
Oh
for
my
a little
gosh,
bit.
my pleasure.
Oh,
Such a blessing to be here. Divine timing. It was
divine
wonderful
timing.
for sharing and sharing a crystal that can possibly, help support those on their own healing journeys. And of course,
Yes.
from a place of love. So let
Yes.
love be the highest vibration. As long as we're vibrating from love, it's really hard to have anything knock you off your path. You get right back up. So thank you so much for having me on here on the Fox Den. Gina, you are such a delight.
I
And
love you.
we missed Mama D, but we'll see her next week. And Forrest, I thank you for bringing such an inspirational piece of work, writing your heart into these pages and sharing that with the world. We certainly
What
need more of that.
we
Thank you.
what you all are doing is incredibly inspiring by creating spaces for people to come together as a community, as a sangha, and as one. And remember the old wherever anytime more than one person gathers, the spirit's all with us. So beautiful.
It's a great song.
I love that. Yes.
I do love that. Peace and love.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
So much
I'm sure
so
I was
much
a
peace to
hippie in
everybody.
a past life, so I'm still feeling all the feels here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, hang here for a minute,
Okay.
and all of you guys, please share the show. Forrest will appreciate it. Athena will appreciate it. I certainly will appreciate it. Mama will appreciate it,
Yes.
and we'll see you all next week.
So much
Thank you again for joining us for another episode in the Fox Den. We're here every Thursday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bringing you a variety of guests, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and our Anchor venues. We would love it if you would go to our YouTube channel, The Fox Den with Gina B and Mama D, and please subscribe, share, and definitely hit the notification button to never miss a show. We'll see you all next week, and subscribers, watch for our pop-up shows as well.